Hey, friends, and welcome back to the Connected Health Podcast, where we talk all things integrative health, nutrition, hormones, and sustainable wellness so that you can live in a body that feels strong, supported, and vibrant. I'm your host, Vanessa Cohn, functional nutritionist, personal trainer, and founder of Connected Habits. And today, we are kicking off a brand new series of habits. Habits are the foundation of what I make my business about. Because you have habits, they make your brain and your life more efficient to free up mental energy. If it's a habit, you don't have to think about it. You just do it. It's a part of your routine, and it's not taking up cognitive energy or effort on your behalf. There are lots of books out there about habits, like The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, Atomic Habits by James Clear. I've read those. I also have in my personal collection now Switch by Chip and Dan Heath, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But here's the thing, you can read all the books about habits and have that inner knowledge, but if you don't create a habit yourself, this is where problems come in. Let's talk about what habits are really. There are 3 parts to a habit. There's a cue, which is the onset of how the habit starts, the routine, which is the habit itself, and the reward, which is how you feel or if there's a physical reward after you complete a habit. Your habit is what drives up to 40 or 50% of what you do every single day. Think about it. If you've got a habit of putting on your seatbelt as soon as you get in the car, that takes no energy. Sometimes I do it and I don't even think about it. Or driving to a very familiar place. You start driving and before you know it, you're already there. Your brain kind of takes over, puts you on autopilot. That's also the power of habit. The thing is, when it comes to creating new habits and changing our lives and being healthier, a lot of people think about willpower. A lot of people think it's about willpower when it comes to changing a habit, like starting to go to the gym every single morning. I don't have enough willpower to do that. It's really hard to get up when it's not even light outside. It's not just willpower that's a part of the equation. It's about creating a system to make the habit loop, which is the cue, the routine, and the reward, so simple that it does become habit. Here's the neuroscience behind creating habits. There's a part of your brain deep inside called the basal ganglia, and that's where researchers have found that it stores your habits and automates your routines to reduce the cognitive load on the brain. The part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is like right behind our skull, is responsible for making decisions. And that actually doesn't activate when your habits are running. Instead of taking up that really important executive function and cognitive function right here at the prefrontal cortex, the basal ganglia is in charge of doing the habit. So it takes the decision making and the analysis out of it. It's so much easier on your brain. So how do you make a habit? You need a strong cue and a strong reward to teach your brain to encode new behaviors. Here's the thing. Many people don't know this. One of my minors in college was psychology, and I wanted to be a therapist for a while. I was really fascinated with how the brain worked and psychology. There was a part of me that wanted to be a therapist back then, and also another part that wanted to be a brain surgeon, but I don't like cutting into things. I don't like blood. So that was never going to be a path for me, but I still find it super fascinating. And if I have friends with MRIs or brain scans, I'll kind of ask them if I could look at it just for fun. Your brain is always looking for ways to conserve energy. And the way to shortcut that conservation of energy is to create a habit. Before we talk about habit change and how to do so, I wanted to break a couple of myths that are going on around habits right now. Many people believe that it takes about 21 days to start a new habit. However, that fact, that number, that metric is starting to be debunked because it can take anywhere from 59 to 66 days to create some habits. Some take as few as 4 days and some take as long as over a year. So there's really no set way to start a habit, but with some education on how the whole habit creation process and the habit loop works, you can figure out ways to create habits for yourself to live a healthier, happier, more sustainable life. Here's how you start a new habit, according to Charles Duhigg in the book, The Power of Habit. You need a cue, which triggers the brain to go into automatic mode. You need the routine, which is the process that your body follows through without too much effort from your brain. And then the reward is how you feel and what reinforces you to continue that behavior. Here's how you set your cue. Make it so simple and so obvious. Let's say that you do want to start going to the gym in the morning. Let me use myself as an example. I would like to be running more in this current season of life while the weather is nice outside. It's not too hot and not too cold. My best option for creating a cue is leaving my running shoes where I'll see them visually. That will start the process and the routine of me getting ready to go out on the run. I'll put on the shoes, I'll grab my headphones, I'll grab my keys out the door. There are common cues like location, time, your emotional state, other people, and the preceding action. There are different types of things, objects, people, location, time, feelings that can cue you to start a habit. For example, let's say an emotion, stress. If you're stressed at work and you find yourself emotionally eating, then emotional eating after you get home from work is a habit. The cue is the stress, the emotion of stress. The routine is the emotional eating, and the reward is, oh, that food tastes so good. I feel better. That allows you to continue that negative habit, not so good for your health. Positive habit, however, follows the same loop, but the outcome is different. So the cue for me was the shoes. The routine would be to put the shoes on when I see them and go for a run. That would be the behavior, the habit that I'm trying to build. And then the reward. The reward is something that my brain enjoys after doing the routine. It can be a nice smoothie after I go for a run. It can be something tangible like that. Or it can be an emotional payoff. Maybe I feel really accomplished after going on that run. So it's basically your internal or external motivation for completing something. So that is a strategy for creating a new habit. You need a cue, you need a routine, and then you need the reward. Let's say that you don't have a gym routine specifically, but you would like to create one. So number one, you can get your shoes out, your clothes out, something to cue you to start that process. Maybe for you, it's a time. Maybe you want to work out right after work. So once 4 o'clock hits, that's your cue to change, get ready, and go to the gym. The reward can be your dinner right after. The reward can be watching an extra episode of your favorite show. The reward can be even just feeling like you accomplished something at the gym. Whatever it is, start to create one new habit this week, practicing using the habit loop. Another tip with creating habits is putting some identity value behind it. One of the things that we struggle with as people when we try to create a new habit is there's a little bit of internal struggle, especially if it's difficult for us, of self-sabotage. Using your identity to help shape your habits and shape your direction moving forward is to make statements, kind of like affirmations, to help reinforce the belief deep inside of you that you are changing not just the physical act of what habit you're acting on, but the beliefs in your body. You have to believe that you are the type of person that would do that. Instead of saying, oh, I'm trying to eat healthy or I'm trying to go to the gym, reframe that. That is part of it, yes, but you want to come from a place that you're already at. I am a healthy person, not I just eat healthy. I am a person that goes to the gym. I am a fit person. It is who you are. It is part of who you are. If you don't take the time to ingrain that deep inside of you, that's one of the reasons that habits don't stick. You have to take ownership of being that person that does those things. When I was early on in my fitness journey, I didn't know what I was doing. When I was scrolling on Instagram and finding all of these really cool fitness influencers, I started out really liking the bodybuilding world. And I would follow them. So I was like, wow, those are really awesome people. I want to do that. But there was a part of me that didn't believe that that was for me or that I could accomplish all of the things that they accomplished. And that was partly because I didn't have that belief inside of me that I am a healthy person. I am capable of this. This is something that I can be successful at. I ended up not pursuing that, but I absolutely love where I'm at in my helping career today. So we've gone over 2 parts, the actual process of creating a habit from start to finish, the cue, the routine, and the reward. I want you to remember that. But then the second part is to ingrain it inside of your belief system, that you are the type of person that makes those choices. Now, this can apply to any kind of habit that you want to make. When I became a nutrition coach, one of the things that they were driving down is the process of habits. There's a lot in the health and fitness world, even the nutrition space, that tell you that you have to do these certain things. Like you have to count every single calorie, you have to count every single macro in order to be a fit person, in order to lose weight. I'm sure you've heard that. And I'm sure you've even tried it and found it to be too hard. And so you quit, and then you try again, and then you try this diet, and then you try that diet, and then you try fasting. And all of these things you try, but it doesn't seem to stick as a habit. There's a reason behind it. It's really hard for one person to start in one place and get to a advanced level. They haven't done the steps in order to learn how to do those things successfully. So the jump in where you are now to the jump in where you want to be might be too big of a leap, but that does not mean that you can't be successful. That just means you have to break it down into smaller steps. And that's one of the things that I do as a nutrition coach. There's a lot that comes into the process of weight loss. And instead of giving my clients really outrageous, unrealistic goals and habits, we actually break it down. So the top of the pyramid, I want you to visualize this. There is the goal. Underneath the goal is the habits that make the goal happen. This is the next lower level of the pyramid. Underneath that are the choices that make up those habits. And then beneath that, on the bottom layer of the pyramid, is the action or step that you take towards those choices that turn into habits that help you reach your goal. Breaking a goal down. The big goal is at the top. Every goal is achievable if you put your mind to it and do the work underneath the lower levels of the pyramid, but it does start at the most fundamental level. So our job as coaches is to take what you tell us that your goals are and break it down into steps where we're also teaching you and we're guiding you on how to make those steps, make healthier choices, make those habits to reach those goals. At the heart of it, making a new habit is as simple as making a different choice. Instead of your habit of going to Starbucks drive-thru every morning on the way to work, that is a choice, that is a habit. You can start to choose different things, create a different habit of maybe making coffee at home. I want to share with you the number one reason why most habits fail, and it's this. You're relying on motivation. Motivation is fleeting. Motivation is temporary. Motivation is actually unreliable. Don't rely on something that's unreliable. Motivation isn't always going to be there when you're trying to build the habit of getting up in the morning and going to the gym before work. Motivation is not going to be there when you had a stressful day at work and your first instinct is to eat a whole bag of potato chips. Motivation is not going to be there to help you stop. Motivation cannot be relied on. I teach people that motivation comes after you've already taken some steps towards your goal. Here's what I mean by that. You have the cue to eat emotionally after work, but you instead make that choice not to. You decide to expend your energy in a different way by going for a walk. And the reward after that is similar. You feel better. You don't feel as stressed anymore. Just like the food would have given you, you feel better, but it was a different routine in the middle that was ultimately better for your health. After you made that choice, you feel good about yourself. So you are motivated to do that again the next time that cue happens. This is where motivation comes in. Motivation comes in with the reward. As you make better choices, as you take better action steps, motivation continues to build and build. Let's say that was a common routine for you, emotional eating after work. And if you made different choices to go for a walk every day after work that week, you feel so much motivation. Hey, I did this for a whole week. And look, the scale is down about 2 pounds. I did it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the same thing next week. And it just puts you on this trajectory of success. That's where motivation is. Motivation comes after you act, and that's one of the biggest misconceptions about the role of motivation when it comes to behavior change. Motivation comes after you act and you're successful. There is a whole inner work of how habits change and how we will self-sabotage when it comes to behavior change that is rooted partially in really deep parts of ourselves, deep beliefs that we have about ourselves and our worth and our value. And I'm going to talk about that in future episodes. But there are parts of us that play a role when it comes to changing anything that we're unfamiliar with. Change is difficult for anybody. Personally, I'm not a fan of change, but I know that change has always helped me grow as a person. And we're going to talk about that inner, deeper work on future episodes in this series. I want to end this episode with giving you some other tips and solutions as you start to build your new habits. Number one, don't try to build a bunch of new habits at the same time. It's going to be a lot to track, a lot to monitor. You're going to feel discouraged and be overwhelmed. So my recommendation to you, if there's one habit that you want to build, focus on that for a while until you've got it nailed down. That can be anything from a gym habit, a nutrition habit, drinking enough water, going to sleep at an earlier time. These are all individual habits that you could start to incorporate. Another solution I want to give you is what's called habit stacking. If you've already got a really good, successful habit routine going, if you can add another routine in the middle of that queue, the reward will probably be exponentially larger for you. I heard a man on a podcast talking about a habit that he created that I absolutely love, and I actually started incorporating it. I have the habit of walking to my coffee maker as one of the first things I do every day to start my pot of coffee. So what he does is that he goes to prepare his cup of morning joe, and while he's waiting for the coffee, he keeps a kettlebell in his kitchen, and he does a few squats and a few exercises with that kettlebell while the coffee is brewing. So the cue is making coffee. The routine is normally just waiting for the coffee. Maybe in the past, he would just scroll on his phone or just sit there waiting for it to brew. But he actually put a new routine in there where he was being physically active and getting a good positive start to his day. And the reward was, hey, I worked out for even just 5 minutes and I get a nice cup of coffee at the end. So that's just one example of habit stacking, but think of integrating something that makes sense, something logical that you can put in there to use a routine that you already have to build a new habit as well. Another thing that I will tell some of my senior clients to do, and they actually do it, which is really awesome, is when they are brushing their teeth and looking in the mirror, they're doing some calf raises because they're standing, their hands are active, and I'm just having them doing some calf raises, even balancing on one foot while you're brushing your teeth, just to work in some extra movement into their bodies. The reward for that would be clean teeth, and I worked on my balance and my strength today. Here's another example that might motivate you to go out for a walk. While I'm walking, I can listen to a podcast. So I'm walking and learning something at the same time. I can call a friend. I'm walking and building a relationship at the same time. And stacking your habits like that, where it's so easy, you'd be foolish not to, would be so beneficial for you. So that is habit stacking. Another thing that I want to recommend is having an environment that supports the habits that you're trying to make. One of those things can be the visual cues that you have around you. So if the habit that you're trying to make is going to the gym in the morning, definitely have your outfit ready to go or your gym bag right by the door where you can't miss it. So you can grab it and head out very, very easily. That is setting up your environment in such a way that it cues your brain to follow through on that routine. Another environmental cue that I have set up for myself is leaving my blender for smoothies on the counter so that when I get up in the morning, I'm brewing coffee, I can also make a smoothie to enjoy. Another tip that I have is to be compassionate with yourself in the process. You're not going to get it right every single time, or maybe you will. Maybe the habit that you've chosen to practice with is quite simple and you're getting the hang of it. That's amazing. That is something that you should celebrate. If you're having a little bit of trouble making that habit stick, maybe you've made it too complicated for yourself. Maybe you need to have a conversation with a coach on how to make it more achievable for you. You might be battling with some perfectionist tendencies when you don't seem to get things the right way, but I want you to practice being compassionate with yourself. Your mind and your body might fight with you when it comes to making a new habit. Expect that. Expect it and create a backup plan. Maybe you ended up emotionally eating and then you feel super guilty. I want you to take that as a learning experience and see what you could change in the future so that that negative habit that you're trying to break doesn't happen and you can replace it with a more positive habit. Before we wrap up, I wanted to bring it back to the name of my coaching business, Connected Habits Coaching. I chose that name because habits are the foundation of our lifestyle. So if you want to live a healthy lifestyle, the foundation of that is your habits. And the habits underneath that are made up of choices that you make day to day. Not every day is going to be perfect, but those choices will grow you as a person, make you more resilient, and form those habits to be stronger. We've all been there when there's been something in our lives that we wanted to change. And I'm the first to tell you, it's never easy to change something that we're so used to doing on autopilot. But that's the beauty of the process of change and transformation. A healthy life is connected to your habits, your routines. If you've got negative habits and negative routines, It's going to show up in your energy levels, how you feel, the symptoms that you have, the illnesses that you struggle with. But all of those things can be turned around for positive growth and healthy lifestyle. Some of the habits that we have actually go against what we want for ourselves and our bodies. And when your habits are disconnected from the goals that you have, the life that you really want to live, we need to change things. We want our habits to reflect our values, and our values are a reflection of what we really believe on the inside. So changing a habit, forming a habit is really deep work. It's at the core of who we are as people, what we believe about ourselves, what we believe about the world. So think of it as like really deep core stuff that has layer after layer after layer all the way to the outside, which results in the behavior. But behind the behavior is a cue and a belief and a system and all of that. Connected habits means that you have a set of built-in systems connected together to build your healthy lifestyle. The lifestyle that you want, the lifestyle that supports your values and your goals for your life and your future. When you connect those habits, everything flows better. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of an introduction on what habits are, how you create them, how you can stack them together, some tips on how to create better habits. I want you to stick around to learn more about habits, how to create them, how to deal with your self-sabotage that gets in the way when you're trying to make changes in future episodes. In the meantime, you can join my Facebook group, Connected Habits, a community for holistic and sustainable health. Follow me on Instagram at Connected Habits Coach and check out my website, connectedhabits.com, where you can find more information about how I serve people, testimonials from my clients, and how you can get in touch with me to take advantage of a free consult that I offer. Thanks for tuning into the Connected Health Podcast. If today's episode gave you that light bulb moment, please share it with a friend or family member, or even put it on social media, because I guarantee you other people are trying to make positive changes in their habits and life as well. Or you can reach out to me and let me know what clicked for you and if you have any questions. Until next time, stay grounded, be kind to yourself, and stay connected. I'll see you next time.